All right, guys. So this is going to be a day of reactions, okay? Because there's a lot to react to following this Derek Chauvin trial verdict. And the first thing that I have to react to today is Greg Gutfeld, right? The Fox News political commentator / comedian. He said something yesterday in response to the verdict that, I think a lot of people do probably low-key agree with, right, in terms of his overall point that he's trying to make. But a lot of conservatives probably not happy about the fact that Greg Gutfeld said he was happy about this. Okay, I think that's the real issue here. He said the quiet part out loud, but I was shocked that this man actually said this on TV, and the reaction from the guests on the show as well showed that this was something that was just crazy that he actually said this on TV. But I want to discuss it because, I think there's some important points to be made here. So let's take a look at what Greg Gutfeld said in regards to his reaction to the verdict and some of the response to that. Take a look.
And now I'm going to just get really selfish. I'm glad that he was found guilty on all charges.
Yeah.
Even if he might not be guilty of all charges.
Oh my God.
I am glad that he is guilty of all charges because I want a verdict that keeps this country from going up in flames.
Oh my goodness.
No.
What do you mean?
Look, Greg, listen.
What do you mean? No, I'm at least being honest. My neighborhood was looted. I don't ever want to go through that again.
We do not sacrifice individuals for the sake
I'm
of
saying he's
how
guilty.
people
I'm
feel.
saying I'm glad about the verdict. Wait a second. Did you hear what Mike Tobin said when he was interviewing some people when they said, hey, we're not going to loot tonight, we're going to celebrate?
Right,
so we were dealing with what we thought was a sense of extortion, that if this didn't go a certain way, I'm speaking the truth. If it didn't go a certain way, there was going to be destruction. We know that. Why pretend otherwise?
All right.
Now, I got to tell you, I heard Greg a few minutes ago, and I got to tell you, I don't know, Greg is off his meds if he believes that there was not evidence.
Excuse
That's
me?
what I'm saying.
What did you say?
Let me finish.
What did you say? Excuse me? What did he say? Am I off my meds?
Not evidence. Let me
You're lucky you're not around here.
Let me finish. If you do not believe that there was evidence that
I didn't
was
say that.
supported to support these charges, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to tell you. This judge, as Janine said, conducted a fair hearing.
That is not what I said.
I'm not finished. As Martha said,
You are finished.
Due process actually worked in this case.
All right, guys. So as you can see, Greg Gutfeld basically said that even though Chavin may not be guilty on all charges, he's glad that he was found guilty on all charges because that may prevent people from rioting and protesting. And he said that he's personally a victim of that. And he doesn't want to go through that again. Now, Judge Janine Pirro acted in a reasonable way, right? But she was just like, oh, no, you can't be doing this. Like, no, you can't say that. That's not right. We can't sacrifice our judicial system for the sake of mob justice, right? And she's exactly right about that, right? What Greg Gutfeld said is literally the antithesis of conservatism, right? Conservatism is about conserving tradition. Okay, that's what it's about. It's about conserving our institutions, right? The integrity and the sovereignty of those institutions. When you have mob justice, okay, where you sacrifice the sovereignty and integrity of an institution in order to basically avoid riots and protests, that again is not conservative, right? That really is a problem, okay? And you probably should not be happy about that solely for selfish reasons, okay? That's probably not a good idea to say something like that out loud on TV if you really feel that way. I mean, we're talking about a man's life here, right? And, whether or not, you believe that Chavin used excessive force to cause George Floyd's death and all this other stuff, regardless of what you believe, you should want our institutions to remain independent. And if you have a question in your mind about if that is the case, then you should not say that you're happy because it benefits you personally. That really is not a good take. Even if that's what a lot of people believe, okay? I think the being happy part about it is what really was the controversial part here. Now, on the other hand, I get what he was trying to say, right? So I do have some sympathy for Greg because it's a damn shame that he has to even say this in the first place, right? And I will say he was keeping it 100. He was saying things that a lot of people probably felt, right? And him personally going through that, or at least that's what he said. He said he personally went through these riots and protests in response to this type of stuff. He said, listen, I just don't want to go through it again, right? And I don't want to see the country burn, right? I mean, again, I think some conservatives definitely are reacting in an appropriate way, right, as conservatives should when somebody makes a statement like that about sacrificing of our institutions for the sake of mob justice. But at the same time, you know, what people really should talk about is the fact that we're in this situation in the first place. The fact that, you know, we live in a country where we even had to consider something like this. Now, obviously, and people can have their own theories about whether or not the jury was influenced. Personally, I don't know, right? I think that it's something that will be left up to the courts, right, when it comes to the appeals. I think it's possible, right? It can be highly probable, but I mean, it's impossible for me to know for sure, right? Because technically, you know, the jury is supposed to not pay attention to that stuff. They're not supposed to watch the news. You know, they're supposed to remain independent, okay? But I'm not naive enough to believe that that's actually how it's working. But at the same time, you know, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, considering that that is how our justice system works. Now, there's a question of, you know, is our justice system outdated in regards to modern technology, right? In terms of how it's almost impossible to get away from social media. It's impossible to get away from news. Okay, so even if the jury was fully sequestered, which they weren't throughout this whole thing, and they should have been, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable to question whether or not there was some influence, right? But again, at the same time, I think that at the end of the day, you either trust the jury or you don't. And although it is strange that they found him guilty on all 3 counts, right, in such a short amount of time, I think that that's ultimately something that has to be handled by the judicial system. Okay. But, you know, I don't blame Greg Gutfeld for his comments. I just think it is shocking how he said it on national TV, right? Because he made nobody happy with those comments. Okay. In his defense a little bit here, you know, he did say that, you know, he thinks Chavin is guilty, or at least I think that's what he was trying to say, right? He's just saying like he's happy that, you know, it was on all 3 charges. Whether or not that meant, you know, maybe he think Chavin was guilty of manslaughter and not murder, I don't know, right? To me, it suggests that he probably thinks that he was guilty on manslaughter, not murder, but he's happy that, you know, hey, they found all 3 because we all know manslaughter would not have been enough. Right? Manslaughter would have been injustice to these people, right? They would have felt like justice not served. And there's still people that feel like justice not served. And what's also interesting is that you have people that's on the left that's essentially making this same argument that Gutfeld is making, right? For different reasons, but they're making the same argument, which is that, hey, this is the justice system saying this is just one bad apple. Take a look.
Well, I'll say this, Nicole. Like I said, I actually always thought that he would be found guilty because it's sort of a cultural makeup call. But I'm not happy. I'm not pleased. I don't have any sense of satisfaction. I don't think this is a system working. I don't think this is a good thing. What this says to me is that in order to get a nominal degree of justice in this country, that a black man has to be murdered on air, viewed by the entire world. There have to be a year's worth of protests and a phalanx of other white police officers to tell one white officer that he was wrong in order to get one scintilla of justice. That doesn't make me feel happy. That doesn't make me feel satisfied. It makes me worry about what's going to happen when these other officers are held on trial. It makes me upset all the more that we didn't have this for Breonna Taylor. It makes me concerned about what's going to happen in the trial for Ahmaud Arbery. So, no, I mean, this is not the system working. This is a makeup call. This is the justice system trying to say that, hey, this is one bad apple, because that's how this is going to be interpreted. It's going to be this one bad apple. He got in trouble. Yay, blah, blah, blah. And yet there's still going to be young black men and women across this country being shot today, tomorrow, and 2 weeks from now, because unless we have some radical reform, there's no lesson learned.
So what this guy on MSNBC just said was, I always thought he would be found guilty because it is some sort of cultural wake up or makeup call or whatever he said, right? Is that not the exact same thing that Greg Gutfeld is saying, right? And what Tucker Carlson basically said too, right? It's the exact same thing, except, unlike conservatives, this guy who sounds like a progressive is like, oh no, we need to radically change the system instead of reforming it incrementally to improve the system, right? When people want to go after people like Tucker Carlson and Greg Gutfeld for these type of takes, but the left is making the exact same argument. They're just making it for a different reason. Okay, on their side of things, they're saying, oh, no, this is just one bad apple that, is going away. This was done because we put pressure on them to do it. That's literally what that guy just said. Okay, he's saying that, without all this pressure, we would not have got the justice that we seek. That's literally what people are saying on the left. That's really what they're saying. Right? It's no different than what people on the right say when, again, they're like, well, we felt like some of these riots and protests may have had an influence. It's the exact same thing. It blows my mind that our current state of media and mainstream opinion is like this. It really does. But in regards to Greg Gutfeld, I think that a better way to frame his opinion would have been, hey, I'm not necessarily sure if he should be guilty of all charges, specifically murder, and he probably believes that manslaughter was more appropriate. But I am relieved that there won't be riots. However, I'm not happy about the fact that this is potentially something that could undermine our legal system, right? I think that would have been a better way of framing it. Okay, but hey, it is live TV, so I get it, right? You just kind of say what's on your mind at that point, right? But, like I said, I think the main takeaway here is the fact that, it's a damn shame that people even have to think this, right? We should not even be thinking this. And I think a lot of people would not have thought this if it wasn't for what Maxine Waters said, okay? Maxine Waters really stirred the pot on this stuff because I don't think people were really talking about this that much until she came out and said those comments. I think a lot of people, if she had not said that, if Biden would have not said that, if the mayor would have not came out and said something, I think a lot of people would have been like, okay, well, this is just a decision. It is what it is. I think a lot more people would have felt comfortable with it and would have more faith that our judicial system did the right thing. Okay? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.